By the end of this week, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will officially launch his candidacy for president with this pitch to voters: Make America Florida. But that launch comes as the NAACP, the oldest civil rights organization in the country, issued a travel advisory for the state over the governor's, quote, aggressive attempts to erase Black history. The notice reads, Florida is openly hostile toward African Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ plus individuals. Before traveling to Florida, please understand that the state of Florida devalues and marginalizes the contributions of and the challenges faced by African Americans and other communities of color. I want to bring in NBC News senior political reporter Matt Dixon from Tallahassee, Florida. Also back with us is Michael Steele. So, Michael, if DeSantis's goal is to make America Florida, the question is, how much of America wants to be Florida?
Probably not much. As I was just reading before coming back on about the Florida man who pulled out a semi-automatic weapon on a guy at an ATM because he was moving too slowly. So I don't think America wants more of that. Look, Ron DeSantis believes somehow that his actions, his play to the culture wars, in fact, not only owning them, but augmenting them, is something that's going to translate in a national bid. I just don't see the evidence for that. I just don't see Americans wanting to embrace a 6-week ban on abortion, the anti-business attitude that clearly is driving a lot of the noise right now with Disney, et cetera. I just don't see that. I may be wrong.
Let me go over, if I can, Michael, a list of some of the things that he proudly said he got through in this legislative session: the abortion ban you mentioned, a ban on gender-affirming care for youth, blocking African-American studies programs, restricting drag shows, eliminating unanimous decisions for the death penalty. There were also some concealed carry without a permit legislation, since you mentioned what happened at that ATM. Does this then, if it doesn't give him a record to run on, which it sounds like you don't think it does, give other Republicans an opening? Because if you look at the polls, he has consistently been the number 2 to Donald Trump.
Yeah, so let me be clear. He has a record to run on. I'm not saying he doesn't have a record to run on. The question you asked me was, is that a record America's going to want?
Yeah.
Right. Is that a record America is going to want to see applied across the country? And my answer to that is no. So I'm not doubting his record. I think that record, to your next question, does open up a lane for others to contrast themselves, particularly if they're former governors like a Nikki Haley, to how they handle things like, race in their states. Educational issues around charter schools and things like that didn't result in banning books and blaming CRT for everything, including a bad day at the office. So he has that record. The record is not something Donald Trump is going to be concerned about. The record is something his opponents may be concerned about and used against him to try to move into that second position against Trump.
Matt, what impact do you think this could realistically have on the state of Florida? I mean, you have the NAACP ban, but there had already been advisories from the League of United Latin American Citizens, Equality Florida. Of course, Michael mentioned the whole brouhaha with Disney. What does all this mean when you put it together for actually the state that you're in?
Impact, it depends how you want to frame that, from the sense of actual tourism, which is what some of these warnings are trying to impact. Florida had 28 million tourists just in the first quarter of 2023, which is like a 40% increase from the year before. So that's happened during the DeSantis sort of culture war push. So a culture war from a tourism standpoint doesn't seem to be impacting things here. But of course, there's a political element, and all this is timed to some degree with Governor DeSantis rolling out his presidential campaign likely later this week. And there are Democratic politicians, the mayor of Tampa and the mayor of St. Petersburg most recently have gone on Twitter to emphasize that their cities are inclusive and they welcome folks of all backgrounds, religious, sexual orientation, race. So there is going to be a heightened amplification politically over a lot of these things, even if I'm not sure that from a tourism standpoint this will have the desired effect. But I think politically it's going to continue to amplify the perception from Democrats that DeSantis has passed legislation and focused on hurting marginalized communities.
And we're down to a minute, Michael, but to that point, does this open an opportunity for Democrats? We know already that part of this strategy for Team Biden is they're looking at Florida again. Are there opportunities there that Republicans might not have had? I'm sorry, that Democrats might not have had.
I think I think that's a very good question, and it'll be interesting to see how tactfully and actually strategically the Biden team and national Democrats can actually use Ron DeSantis and the state of Florida, that agenda that we were just talking about, as a foil, not just against DeSantis, but Trump and other Republicans as well. Asking a Tim Scott just in the race, so where are you on a 6-week ban? Where are you on Disney, et cetera? So there are some real interesting plays that are set up here. Now the question politically is who has the gravitas to actually make it work for them.
Michael Steele and Matt Dixon, thank you both so much. And coming